Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today we are going to discuss about the stability of colloid systems. In previous lecture we had a detailed study on the colloids and its types. We had discussed that what are colloids, their types and their physical and chemical properties, and then we discussed that what are the example of colloids. So in today's lecture students we are going to discuss the stability of colloid systems. As far as colloid systems are concerned, as in the previous lecture, we had studied that colloid systems are those systems in which the particles are in the size of the particles are in nanometers, or there is a specific range for the size of the particles. As we had discussed basically that there are three types of colloids, that is molecular dispersions, then after molecular dispersion we have colloidal solutions and then coarse dispersions. So now in today's lecture we are going to discuss the about the stability of the colloids. So for stability of colloids, first of all we will have to look at some important properties of the colloidal system. So let's start with the today lecture. Students, for the stability of colloid, there are few parameters that must be considered, like the presence and magnitude or absence of a charge on a colloidal particle is an important factor in the stability of colloidal system. Means that there must be a charge present or absent, or then if charge is present, then what is the magnitude of the charge that is present on the particles. These are the few factors that are responsible for the stability of the colloidal system. Generally, stabilization of colloid is obtained essentially by two means. Number first, providing the dispersed particles with an electric charge. Suppose that you have a dispersion system. As we had discussed, that dispersion system is a system which consists of two phases. The one phase which is continuous phase and the other is dispersed phase. The dispersed phase is evenly distributed in a continuous phase. So we can study the stability of colloidal system by providing the dispersed particle with an electric charge, or we can stabilize the colloidal system by providing the dispersed particles with an electric charge. Second, surrounding each particle with a protective solvent sheet that prevents mutual adherence when the particles collide as a result of Brownian movement. This effect is significant only in case of lyophilic solutions for lyophilic colloids. As we had discussed that lyophilic colloids are those colloids in which there is a strong interaction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. So there is already a mutual interaction between them. So the solvent for the continuous phase is able to form a protective layer around the particles, and when the particles colloid due to Brownian motions, the particles do not adhere with themselves, or the particles do not adhere with one another. So stabilization is accomplished essentially by two means: providing the dispersed particles with an electric charge. Second, surrounding each particle with a protective solvent sheet that prevents mutual adherence when the particles colloid as a result of Brownian movement. As we have discussed that the second effect is significant only in case of lyophilic colloids or solutions. Now students, let's start with the stability of lyophobic colloids. Lyophobic colloids, as we had discussed that lyophobic colloids are those colloids in which there is no interaction between the continuous phase and the dispersed phase. So the stability of these systems is achieved by providing electric charge on the surface of the particles. Before discussing the stability of lyophobic colloids, few terms need to be understood, like what is electric double layer, what is the difference between Nernst potential, which is also called electrothermodynamic potential, and what is zeta potential, or zeta potential is also called electrokinetic potential. So these terms need to be understood to properly grab the concept of lyophobic, lyophobic colloid stability. So we will discuss it one by one. Let's start with the electric double layer. That what is electric double layer? Student, as here you can see a diagram, so we will describe this diagram in different slides, so your concentration is required for proper understanding of this figure. Now let's start that what is electric double layer, or what is the electric double layer in dispersion system. Consider a solid surface in contact with a polar solution containing ions, for example, an aqueous solution of an electrolyte. Furthermore, let us suppose that some of the cations are adsorbed onto the surface, giving it a positive charge. Here you can see that this is the surface of the particles, and these are the cations that are adsorbed at the surface of the particles in a colloidal system. The dimensions of the particles in colloidal system, as we had discussed, that used to be in nanometers or very small. So this is the surface of the particle. Here it is denoted by A dash. The surface of the particle, as you can see, that positive charge A or cations are adsorbed at the surface of the particles in a colloidal dispersions. The remaining solutions are the rest of the cations plus the total number of anions added. So students, in this slide we had discussed that simply there is a polar solution, and in polar solution there is a particle which is covered by the surface of the positive charge, or you can say that positive charge are adsorbed at the surface of the particles in a colloidal dispersion. Let's proceed further. These anions are attracted to the positively charged surface by electric forces that also serve to repel the approach of any further cation once the initial adsorption is complete. Student, it means that, let's discuss from this diagram, if the particle surface is occupied by positive charge cation, ultimately it will attract the negative charge. So the negative charge or anion is attracted towards the positive surface or the positive charge of the ions. But this adsorption will not be as much as proper, because there is already positive charge present on the surface of the particle. So this positive charge will repel further adsorption of the positive charge. So here you can see that at the surface of the particle there is a layer of positive charge. Around this positive charge, negative charge are attracted towards this positive charge. These you will have to concentrate on the figure in order to properly grab the concept of this diagram. Let's proceed further. As we had discussed that these ions are attracted to the positively charged surface by electric forces that also serve to repel the approach of any further cation once the initial adsorption is complete. It means that if the particle surface is occupied by positive charge, after that there will be negative charge, but these negative charge will not attract as much as positive charges, because there are already a layer of the positive charge on the surface of the particles, and they will repel further adsorption of the positive charge. In addition to these electric forces, thermal motion tends to produce an equal distribution of all the ions in solution. As a result, an equilibrium situation is set up in which some of the excess anions approach the surface, whereas the remainder are distributed in decreasing amount as one proceeds away from the charged surface. It means that if we are going away from this surface, then the distribution will be in the decreasing order. From here to here, the distribution of the charges will be in the decreasing order. Let's proceed further. At a particular distance from the surface, the concentration of anions and cations are equal. That is called the electric neutrality, or you can say that is conditions of electric neutrality prevail. Here in the diagram you can see that the electroneutral region of the solution is from C dash to D dash. This region is electrically neutral, and student, you will have to also consider that the whole system, the system as a whole is neutral. There is no charge on the system either. There is unequal distribution of positive and negative charges in different areas of the solutions. Still that we will consider that the solution as a whole is neutral. So In these slides, we had discussed that a particular distance from the surface, the concentration of anions and cations are equal, that is condition of electric neutrality prevails. It is important to remember that the system as a whole is electrically neutral, even though there are regions of unequal distribution of ions, anions and cation. Such situation is shown in the figure given on the next slide. Here I had enlarged the diagram. You can see that this is the surface of the particle. At the surface of the particle, we had a positive ion adsorption or cation. These cations will attract negative charges, and there will be a layer of the negative ions, and these negative ions then will further attract positive charge, but the positive charge here will not be attracted as much as, because there are already positive charges on the surface of the particles and they will tend to repel these charges. So in these slides we had discussed up till now. Let's proceed further. And this is the area of the electric neutrality from C dash to D dash. This is the area of the solution where positive and negative ions are in equilibrium, and we can say that this area of the solution is electrically neutral as we move away from the surface of the particle in a dispersion solution. Now, let's start discussing that the concept of electric double layer, where AA, as in the diagram, you can see that AA dash, AA dash, AA dash is the surface of the solid particles. The adsorbed ions that give the surface its positive charge are referred to as the potential determining ions. So in this diagram, the potential determining ions that are adsorbed at the surface of the particles are positive charge, and these are called potential determining ions. Immediately adjacent to this surface, a layer surface layer is a region of tightly bound solvent molecules together with some negative ions also tightly bound to the surface. As student, we had discussed that this is a colloidal dispersion and there is a continuous phase and dispersed phase. So here from A to B, from A dash to B dash, here this in this region, in this region in this region there are solvent molecules and negative charges that are tightly bonded to the positive charge layer. So the system as a whole from A to B dash behave as a single unit. Means we can also say that the surface of the particle from A dash is shifted to B dash, because from A dash to B dash or from A to B, the ions behaves as a single unit because of the strong interaction of positive and negative charges, and also the interaction of the solvent molecule with these ions. So we can also say that the surface of the particle is shifted from A dash to B dash, and now the surface of the particle is B dash, and this is the original surface of the particle A dash, and B dash is the surface of the particle in colloidal dispersion. In these slides, we have discussed these laws that immediately adjacent to this surface layer is a region of tightly bound solvent molecules together with some negative ions also tightly bound to the surface. The limit of this region is given by the line B dash. These ions having a charge opposite to that of the potential determining ions are known as counter ions or Giegeen ions. So in the slide you can see that the negative charges that are attracted by the potential determining surface charge are counter ions or Giegeen ions, because they are in opposite charge of the ions that are adsorbed at the surface of the particle. So these ions are also called counter ions or Giegeen ions. Let's proceed further. Now, the degree of attraction of the solvent molecules and counter ion is such that if the surface is moved relative to the liquid, the shear plane is BB rather than AA, the true surface. As I have told you that there is a strong interaction of the particles between the negative charges and positive charges, and there is also interaction of the solvent molecules in which these ions are present. So the system as a whole behave as a single unit from A dash to B dash. Therefore, if I will move this surface, movement will be here. So this is not the now this is not the original surface of the particle. The surface is shifted from A dash to B dash. So these terms are discussed here. The degree of attraction of the solvent molecules and counter ions is such that if the surface is moved relative to the liquid, the shear plane is B dash rather than A dash. The true surface A dash is the true surface of the particles, but because of the interaction with the counter ion and solvent molecules, the surface is shifted from A to B dash. In the region bounded by the lines BB dash and CC dash, there is an axis of negative ions. The potential at BB dash is still positive because, as previously mentioned, there are fewer anions in the tightly bound layer than cations adsorbed on the surface of the solid. Beyond CC, the distribution of ion is uniform and electric neutrality is obtained. All these points we had covered in the from this figure. You can find out the points or that the points that are discussed in different slides of this lecture. Now student, let's discuss that what is electric double layer. This was all the background for the understanding of the electric double layer. Up till now we had discussed that consider there is a solid particle and the solid particles had adsorbed cation on the surface, and these solid particles will attract negative ions towards itself. These negative ions are called gene ions or counter ions, and then these negative ions will attract further positive charge. But remember, at this time the positive charge will not be attracted as much as the particles had already attracted, because there are already positive charges on the surface of the particle, so they will tend to repel further positive charges. Now now let's discuss that what is the zeta potential or nearness potential. And in this diagram, the region from C dash to D dash is the region of electric neutrality. There is equal distribution of positive and negative charges in the dispersion solution. Thus, the electric distribution at at the interface is equivalent to a double layer of charge. You can see that one layer, this is the first layer, and then this is the second layer. So there is electric double layer in the solution. The first layer extending from AA to BB dash, AA to BB dash. This whole unit behaves as a single unit because we had discussed that there is a strong interaction between the counter ion and the ions that are adsorbed at the surface, and there is also interaction between the solvent molecules and these negative ions. So the system as a whole behave as a single unit from AA to BB dash. So this is the first layer from AA to BB dash, tightly bound, and a second layer from BB dash to CC dash, from here to here. This is the second layer of the ions which are attracted by these because of these charges. The tightly bound second layer from BB to CC, from BB to CC dash, this is the second layer, and this layer is more diffuse. The so-called diffuse double layer therefore extends from AA to CC. The diffuse double layer is students from AA to CC, because from AABB this is the first layer, and then from BB to CC this is the second layer. So this, and both of these layers are called electric double layer. But the second layer, as you can see that this layer is not constant, and there the concentration of the charge will be continuously changing because there is Brownian movement in the dispersion medium. So up till now we had cleared the idea that what is electric double layer in a dispersion system. Let's proceed further. Now, what is the Nernst potential, or which is also called electrothermodynamic potential? The potential at the solid surface, AA, means the original surface of the particle. The distribution of ions at this surface is responsible for the Nernst potential. Due to the potential determining ion is the electrothermodynamic potential. As we had discussed that potential determining ions are those ions that are adsorbed at the interface or at the surface of the particles, colloid particles. So the potential difference at the original surface of the particle is called Nernst potential. Nernst potential is denoted by E, and it is defined as the difference in potential between the actual surface and the electron neutral region of the solution. So A dash is the actual surface, and C D, this region is the electron neutral region. So the difference of potential from the actual surface to the electron neutral region of the solution is called Nernst potential. Now what is zeta potential? The potential located at the shear plane BB dash. Shear plane means that this is from here to here, the particle behaves as a single unit. So this BB dash is now responsible for the stability of the colloidal system. So the potential located at the shear plane, that is BB dash, or this is also called Stern layer, is known as the electrokinetic or zeta potential. It is denoted by zeta. The zeta potential is defined as the difference in potential between the surface of the tightly bound layer, the shear plane, that is BB dash. This is the shear plane BB dash. The difference in potential from BB dash to the electroneutral region of the solution is called zeta potential. And the Nernst potential is the potential difference between the actual surface of the particle and the electroneutral region of the solution. This is called Nernst potential. And the potential difference between the Stern layer or shear plane or the shifted surface, the surface of the particle is shifted now from A dash to B dash. So the potential difference between this layer and this layer, the electroneutral region of the solution, this is called the zeta potential. And this zeta potential is important parameter for the stability of the colloidal system. The zeta potential has practical application in the stability of system containing dispersed particles because this potential, rather than the Nernst potential, governs the degree of repulsion between the adjacent, similarly charged dispersed particles. If the zeta potential is reduced below a certain critical value, which depends on the particular system being used, the attractive forces exceed the repulsive forces and the particles come together. This phenomena is called flocculation. Flocculation, students, is a general phenomena that usually occurs in suspension system. As we had discussed that zeta potential is important for the stability of the colloidal system. So if the value of the zeta potential, it means if the potential at the surface of the B dash is reduced, then there will be attractive forces between the dispersed phase, the colloidal particles, and they will aggregate together because they will collide with one another due to Brownian motion, and this collision may result in the aggregation of the particle, and it will ultimately result in the formation of floccule. And this phenomena is called flocculation. Floccules are, students, loose aggregates of the colloidal particles. Now students, let's discuss the stability of, let's come to our actual topic, that is the stability of the lyophobic colloid system. A lyophobic solution is thermodynamically unstable because there is no mutual interaction between the dispersed phase and the dispersion medium. The particles in such solution are stabilized only by the presence of electric charge on their surface. So how can we induce electric charge on the surface of the particle? By the addition of ion in the system. You can induce a charge, or by adding some polar functional groups to the solution that would be able to provide charges to the particles that are already adsorbed, that are already present in the dispersed phase. The like charges produce a repulsion that prevents coagulation or flocculation, you can say, of the particles. If the last trace of the ions are removed from the system by dialysis, suppose that if you have lyophobic colloid system and you are going to remove the ions from that system through dialysis, then the particles can agglomerate, means they can come nearer to one another and can form aggregates and reduce the total surface area, and owing to their increased size. This may settle rapidly from suspension. So, students, lyophobic colloids are stabilized by the provision of charges to the surface of the particles. Let's proceed further. Hence, addition of small amount of electrolyte to a lyophobic solution tends to stabilize the system by imparting a charge to the particle. Addition of electrolyte beyond that necessary for maximum absorption on the particles, however, sometimes results in the accumulation of opposite ions and reduce the zeta potential below its critical value. And if the zeta potential value is lower, then the dispersed system will have the tendency to agglomerate or to coagulate or to flocculate. So, zeta potential is an important parameter regarding the stability of the colloidal system. There is a rule which is called Schulz-Hardy rule for lyophobic colloid stability. Students, according to this rule, the valency of the ions having a charge opposite to that of the particles appears to determine the effectiveness of the electrolyte in coagulating the hydrophobic colloid. The precipitating power increases rapidly with the valence or charge of the ions, and a statement of this fact is known as Schulz-Hardy rule. Student, there is a rule which is called Schulz-Hardy rule. According to this rule, increase in the valency of the ions will increase the ability of that ion to coagulate the colloidal system. Means increase valency will have high efficiency for the coagulation or precipitation of the colloidal solution. Here you can see that the precipitating power of Al plus 3 is greater than Mg plus 2 and Mg plus 2 is greater than Na plus 1. So as far as we are going to increase the valency or charge on the ions, the precipitating power increase. This rule is called Schulz-Hardy rule. And this the same is for negative charges. Increase valency will increase the ability of the ion to precipitate colloidal solutions. This is called Schulz-Hardy rule. The second concept about the stability of the lyophobic colloids is the DLVO theory. This is a theory which was presented by four scientists like Derjeguin and Landu, Verwey and Auerbach. So the first letter of their names are taken, and this is called DLVO theory. This theory was independently developed that describes the stability of lyophobic colloids. According to this approach, known as the DLVO theory, the forces on colloidal particles in dispersions are due to electrostatic repulsion and London-type van der Waals forces of attraction. So we can say that according to this theory, there are two types of forces in a colloidal system or in a dispersion medium or dispersed system, that is electrostatic repulsion forces and van der Waals attraction forces. These forces result in potential energies of repulsion, which is denoted by VR, and attraction, which is denoted by VA. Because these are the charges, and if you will bring these charges together, their potential energy because of the repulsion or attraction will either decrease or increase. So we can find out the stability of the colloidal system through this DLVO theory. Now students, let's discuss the importance of DLVO theory. According to this theory, distance between two dispersed particles influence particle-particle interaction. By using this theory, one can determine the amount of electrolyte required for the precipitation or stabilization of colloids. Number third, in colloidal dispersion, collision between the dispersed particles occurs due to Brownian movement. Number four, there are two types of interaction between the particles, that is attraction and repulsion. Number five, if electrostatic repulsive forces are dominant, then the colloids remains dispersed, and if van der Waals attractive forces are dominant, then aggregation of the particles will occur. So these points are the important points regarding the Delvaux theory. Now, students, let's explain that what is Delvaux theory in actual practice. Possible interaction between colloidal particles in a dispersed system Like if there are same charges, opposite charges, if same charges brought too close in a colloidal system, then what will happen? And same charges, and if there is same charges in the colloidal system and we are going to add an electrolyte, then what will happen? So students, we will discuss one by one the effect of all these interactions through DLVO theory. So let's start with the first interaction. We will explain these through graphical representation. I am going to explain this graph. Student, kindly be concentrated and try to grab the concept. The graph is explained, each and every line of the graph is explained in the coming slides. So let's start from now. This is a graph between, you can see that here is a positive charge on y-axis and negative charge on the y-axis. Positive charge is for repulsive forces between the particle and negative charge is for attractive forces between the particle. And this is the distance between two particles, interparticle distance. Suppose that you have two particles, one is present here and the second is here, and now we will be discussing the four effect of the interaction, that if same particle interact, opposite particle interact, same particle brings too close together, then what will happen? And if we are going to add electrolyte in a dispersed system having same charge, that what will happen? So these phenomena will result. The first, if we are going to brought two particles that are of similar charges. As students, we know that similar charges will repel each other. So if one particle is here and another particle is here, and we bring these particles close together, so the black line, you can see that there will be a dominant repulsive forces. As from positive axis, we are going to represent the repulsive forces. So you can see the black line here, this line, that if we bring two similar charges close together, there will be a repulsive forces, and you can see that the graph towards the repulsive forces is increases. This is the first line for similar charges. If similar charges are brought close together, there will be a strong repulsive forces, and this is represented by this black line, which is also called repulsion or VR. Now, if we bring two opposite charges, here this line, attraction force, if we bring two positive charges, suppose one particle is here and other is here, and we bring these two particles close together, so these particles have opposite charge, so they will attract one another. So you can see that the graph is here extending towards the force of attraction. By negative sign, we are representing the attractive force below this line, and we are representing repulsive force above this line. So you can see that if we bring two opposite charges close together, there will be a strong attractive forces between them, and you can represent this line. This is the line which is represented for different charges. So this is the line. So you can see that the attractive forces are dominant here. Here the repulsive forces are dominant because we are going to bring two similar charges together, and in this case below the line there is a attractive forces. We are going to bring two opposite charges nearer to one another. Now the third case is, student, the third case is that if we bring two similar charges too close together. Suppose that we are going to bring two similar, let's start from here. Let's start from here. We are going to bring two positive charges too close to one another. So you can see that there will be a repulsive forces because charges are similar. The graph is going here. There is this potential barrier. You can see this potential barrier. This potential barrier is the maximum repulsive forces that exert between the particles, and this is required for the potential for the stability of the colloidal system. We are discussing, student, the third case where we are going to bring two similar charges too close together. When we are going to start, the two similar charges brought too close together at first at moderate distance, they are showing the repulsive forces, and here the potential barrier, which is called the potential barrier, At moderate distance, there is a maximum repulsion between the forces. But as we will decrease the interparticle distance here, first particle is here and second particle is here, then you can see that there is a step drop in the attractive repulsive forces, and the particles are going to attract one another at very minimum distance. Similar charge will attract one another, and this phenomena is called primary minima. Primary minima, as you can see that if similar charges are brought too close at moderate distance, first they show repulsive forces, and this repulsive maximum repulsive forces, and these maximum repulsive forces are called potential barrier. But when we further decrease the interparticle distance between the two similar charged colloids, then what we see a different behavior, as now the forces are immediately shifted from repulsive forces to attractive forces. Here you can see that the primary minimum occurs, and this primary minimum means that at a very short distance two similar charges will attract each other because of the overlapping of their shells. The, the, the valence shell will overlap with one another at very minimum distance, and the colloidal particle will form a strong bond between them, and this strong bond is represented here by primary minimum. And when this happens in a dispersion system, it means that now cake formation has occurred, and by shaking you cannot lose these aggregates. So primary minimum occurs at very small distance. Students, for colloidal system to remain in dispersed phase, we require potential barrier. This is a specific distance at which there is a maximum repulsion between the two similar charges. And if we will be going to decrease this distance, then there will be a shift from a repulsion to strong attraction between the colloidal particles having similar charge. Because of the overlapping of the valence orbitals, a strong bond will be formed between the colloidal particle, as much as strong that the particles cannot be separated from one another with the help of journal shaking. So we can say that in suspension, cakes formation takes place due to the primary minimum. Now the fourth and last case is, student, that if we have same charges and we are going to add electrolyte, as you can see that the fourth case is also represented by the same line, that is potential barrier. Here you can see that there is a slight step in the attractive forces. By the addition of electrolytes, you can see that similar charges will attract each other because of the addition of electrolyte at a very moderate distance from one another. Particles are far from one another, even then they are going to attract one another, and this phenomena occurs, which is called secondary minimum. Here, students, we can explain that secondary minimum occurs because of the loose aggregation of the particles. As particles are far from one another, even then there is a strong interaction between the particles, and these interaction can be break down by simple shaking. So here you can say that here at secondary minimum, when we are going to add electrolyte in a controlled fashion, then floccules forms. These are called floccules. Here cakes formation takes place because there is a strong interaction, there is a weak interaction of attractive forces, and these floccules then can easily be redispersed by shaking. So this was the explanation of the Delvaux theory, which was very simple. I have explained each and every line in the coming slides. So let's discuss now it one by one. The VR line. Here, this is the VR line. When two similar charges bring close together, repulsive forces are dominant as shown in the graph. This is the line for the VR as we have discussed. VA line. This is the VA line. When two opposite charges are bring close together, attractive forces are dominant as shown by the line VA in the graph. This is the line. This is the line of attractive forces, and this is the line of repulsive forces. When two similar charges and two different charges in colloidal system are bring close together. Now let's proceed further. What is potential barrier and primary minima? As we had discussed that when similar charges brought too close together at a certain distance, there is a maximum repulsion between the particles called potential barrier, and at this stage the particles remain dispersed in colloidal system. By decreasing further distance between the particles, the phenomena of primary minima occurs. Here the distance between the particles is very small and such that the orbital overlapping occurs and strong force of attraction developed that result in hard cake formation and cannot be redispersed on shaking, as shown in the graph on the next slide. Here you can see that this is the phenomena for primary minimum. We had discussed it already. Let's proceed further. Some charge, same charge and addition of electrolyte. Secondary minima, student. Addition of electrolyte to a colloidal solution of same charge at certain moderate distance, particles attract each other and form aggregates called floccules, and these are loose aggregation of the particles and can be redispersed on shaking and usually required in controlled flocculation to prevent cake formation. Secondary minima is shown in the graph on the next slide. Student, this is the secondary minima. Here you can see that at very moderate distance, two particles have attraction forces. But here the aggregates are loose because this attraction is due to the interaction of the charges and the solvent with one another. And we can see that as in the electric double layer, the whole system behaves as a single unit. But on shaking, you can redisperse this. So this is the floccules formation at secondary minimum and cake formation at primary minima. Students, not only do electrolyte bring about coagulation of colloidal particles, but the mixing of oppositely charged colloids can also result in mutual agglomeration. Now students, what is sensitization and protective colloidal action? The addition of small amount of hydrophilic or hydrophobic colloid to a hydrophobic colloid of opposite charge tend to sensitize or even coagulate the particle. This is considered by some workers to be due to the reduction of the zeta potential below the critical value. We use the term hydrophilic and hydrophobic when we are going to use water as a continuous or as a dispersion medium. Otherwise, we use lyophobic or lyophilic terms. So you can also protect the coagulation of the colloid particles by adding the hydrophobic colloid of opposite charge tend to sensitize or even coagulate the particle. This is considered by some workers to be due to the reduction of the zeta potential. If you are going to reduce the zeta potential, ultimately coagulation will occur. Now, other attributes of the instability of the hydrophobic particles to a reduction in the thickness of the ionic layer surrounding the particles and decrease in the Coulombic repulsive forces between the particles. As we had discussed that if the thickness of the electric double layer is reduced, then there will be no further repulsion and the Coulombic repulsive forces will decrease and attractive forces, van der Waals attractive forces will increase and coagulation will occur. The addition of large amount of hydrophilic colloid, however, stabilize the system. The hydrophilic colloid or the hydrophile being adsorbed on the hydrophobic particle. This phenomena is known as protection, and the added hydrophilic solution is known as protective colloid. The protective property expressed most frequently in terms of gold number. So the definition of gold number is the minimum weight in milligrams of the protective colloid, that is dry weight of the dispersed phase required to prevent a color change from red to violet in 10 ml of gold solution on the addition of 1 ml of a 10% solution of sodium chloride. Student, protective colloids are simple. We are going to add hydrophilic colloid to a hydrophobic colloid. So hydrophilic colloid will form a protective sheet around it, and this action is called protection. And the colloid which we have added for protection is called protective colloid. So let's proceed further. Stability of lyophilic and association colloids. Students, now we are going to discuss lyophilic and association colloids. Up till now we had discussed about the lyophobic colloids. Now, lyophilic and association colloids are thermodynamically stable and exist in true solution so that the system constitutes a single phase. The addition of electrolyte to lyophilic colloid in moderate amount does not result in coagulation, as was evident with lyophobic colloids. If sufficient salt is added, however, agglomeration and sedimentation of the particles may result. This phenomena is termed as salting out. The coagulation of lyophilic colloid is called salting out by the addition of salt. Just as Schulz-Hardy rule arrange ions in order of their capacity to coagulate hydrophobic colloid, Hofmeister or lyotropic series ranks cations and anions in order to coagulate hydrophilic colloids or solution. Several anions of the Hofmeister series in decreasing order of precipitating powers are citrate, tartrate, sulfate, acetate, chloride, nitrate, bromide, and iodide. The important thing in hydrophilic colloid, student, is the precipitation power is directly related to the hydration of the ion and hence to its ability to separate water molecule from the colloidal particles. Yes, student, there is a strong interaction between the solvent and the dispersed phase in lyophilic colloids. So the action of these ions or these charges, what will they perform? They will dehydrate the molecules. They will remove the water molecules so that the particles can interact with one another and can form coagulate or coagulation can occur. Let's proceed further. Addition of less polar solvent like acetone and alcohol also bring about coagulation in lyophilic colloids. The addition of less polar solvent renders or facilitates the solvent mixture unfavorable for the colloid, and electrolytes can then salt out the colloid with relative ease. We can thus regard flocculation on the addition of alcohol followed by salts as a gradual transformation of a solution of lyophilic nature to one of more lyophobic nature. So you can simply say that, students, the addition of less polar solvents like alcohol and acetone can bring about coagulation in the lyophilic colloid system. When negatively and positively charged hydrophilic colloids are mixed, the particles may separate from the dispersion to form a layer rich in the colloidal aggregates. The colloidal rich layer is known as coacervate, and the phenomena in which macromolecular solutions separate into two liquid layers is referred to as coacervation and is considered physical incompatibility in pharmacy. Student conservation is a very common phenomena and physical instability in case of lyophilic colloids. What happened when negatively and positively charged hydrophilic colloids are mixed? Because they have opposite charges, they will attract one another and will get separated from the dispersion medium, and they will form a colloid rich layer and a colloid poor layer. As a result of this, the solution will be separated in two layers, and this phenomena is called conservation, and this is considered as physical instability in pharmacy. Let's proceed further, students. Now let's start that what are the application of colloids in pharmacy. Certain medicinals means those substances which are used for medicinal purposes have been found to possess unusual or increased therapeutic properties when formulated in the colloidal state. Colloidal silver chloride, silver iodide, and silver protein are effective germicide and do not cause the irritation that is characteristics of ionic silver salts. Student, simple is that these salts are very irritating, but when we formulate them in colloidal solution, then they are non-irritating. Similarly, coarsely powdered sulfur is poorly absorbed when administered orally, yet the same dose of the colloidal sulfur may be absorbed so completely as to cause a toxic reaction and even death. Coarsely powdered means large sulfur particles are poorly absorbed from the GIT after taking orally, but the same dose if taken in colloidal dimension can cause death. So you can see that the properties are drastically changed in colloidal system. Further application, colloidal copper has been used in the treatment of cancer, colloidal gold as a diagnostic agent for paresis, and colloidal mercury for syphilis. Paresis means, students, general parallelism, or you can say that paralysis, temporary paralysis, and mercury for syphilis. Syphilis, this is a sexual disorders of the female. Many natural and synthetic polymers are important in contemporary pharmaceutical practice. Polymers are macromolecules formed by the polymerization or condensation of smaller non-colloidal molecules. Proteins are important naturally colloids and are found in the body as a component of muscles, bone and skins. The plasma proteins are responsible for binding certain drug molecules to such an extent that the pharmacologic activity of the drug is affected. Hydroxyethyl starch is a macromolecule used as a plasma substitute. Other synthetic polymers are applied as a coating to solid dosage form to protect drugs that are susceptible to atmospheric moisture or degradation under the acidic condition of the stomach. So these are the applications of the colloidal system. Students, the last slide, colloidal electrolytes, which are also called surface active agents, are sometimes used to increase the solubility, stability, and taste of certain compounds in aqueous and oily pharmaceutical preparations. In addition to mentioned pharmaceutical applications, colloidals are used as a drug delivery system for therapeutics. 7 main types of colloidal drug delivery system are in use are hydrogels, microparticles, microemulsions, liposomes, micelles, nanoparticles, and nanocrystals. So students, in today's lecture, we had a detailed study on about the stability of the colloids and application of the colloids. So this was all about the colloids. The colloid part was covered in 2 lectures. In first lecture, we had discussed that what are colloids, what are their types, what are their properties. And in the second lecture, we had a detailed study on the stability of the colloidal system, in which we had discussed Schulz-Hardy rule, DLVO theory of Mr. series and different things. So student, kindly listen the lecture carefully and make your notes. Thank you very much. Inshallah, in the next class, we will start a new topic.